welcome to the Giant pregame show presented by Sherwood Ford. Caroline here. Tyler's with me. Tyler, what's up?
It's a snowy Saturday, but the Oilers are playing and looking for their second straight win in a row.
Okay, let's talk about their game against the Jets, the one specifically on Thursday night. Their most recent one, a 2-1 shootout win over the Jets. However, wasn't their best game. I think we can all admit that. If it wasn't for Stuart Skinner between the pipes, the game would look a lot different.
Yeah.
I went to my first Oilers game as a fan. I'm sitting beside my fiance, Mike, and he said Oilers aren't playing big boy hockey against a Jets team that maybe looks like they're ready to play in the playoffs right now. And we need to either figure it out, because if it wasn't for Stuart Skinner making those massive saves, 46 saves on the night, game would look a lot different.
It would have looked a lot differently. I mean, if Stuart Skinner wasn't, A-plus game almost doesn't even describe it. That's like a career night from Stuart Skinner. If he's not on that level, the Oilers are losing 4-1 or 5-1. I mean, they allowed 47 shots in the game. Somehow that thing was 0-0 heading into the third. And yeah, that's a Jets team that we talked about it. A lot of people think that team's good enough to win the Stanley Cup, and that's the level the Oilers are trying to get to or hoping they're at. And again, in those two games, the Jets were clearly the better team in those hockey games, and if it wasn't for the goaltending, the Oilers would have been walking out of that two-game set with no points, never mind the two they ended up getting.
Let's quickly talk about Stuart Skinner since we're on the subject of him. Dave Tippett after the game, high praise from him. He looks like an NHL goaltender, and he plays like an NHL goaltender. Watching him on the ice, I was leaving the game, and I was just blown away by Stuart Skinner. I'm like, I can't imagine what it feels like to be him and to finally have that game for the Oilers. And I think it was his first time getting the win with the Oilers in front of a home crowd, which I think is awesome.
First time his family's gotten a chance to see him play in the NHL live, and that was one of those things too. When I was heading to the game, I was like, that's one of those storylines that usually a goalie shows up for those kind of games. But it's now been like it's his first win of the year. He's 1-2, but in his 3 games, he's been really good in all of them. And he was also perfect in a relief appearance earlier in the week. He's got a .940 save percentage, a .210 goals against average. I mean, 23 years old, a drafted and developed prospect, a local guy. There's a lot of really interesting storylines here, and I don't want to be, jumping the gun and saying he could go on a Jordan Binnington-like run, but I am really happy he's getting the start again here tonight because he deserved it. And when he's in net, the Oilers have had a chance to win every single game. Well
said. And the NHL community, Twitter, Instagram, all of social media blew up once again when Connor McDavid had another massive tying goal. Kyle Turris after the game said his goal was surreal. Cody Ceci said his speed is unmatched. This is just like Connor McDavid. This is his bread and butter.
Yeah, the only thing I have to say is, why does he keep waiting till the third period to do this? I mean,
speed it up, Connor.
Like, if all you're doing is just picking your spot for when you're going to score the game or a big goal, I mean, just do it in the first period. Make the entire game less stressful.
But that easy.
I mean, that's a part of it, too. Like, both these goals right now they're 1-2 in terms of goal of the year candidates in the NHL, and it's not like he's scoring them in 5-1 blowouts. It's not like he's just, being unnecessary in any of the moves as well. Like, he's scoring massive goals at massive points and, in a way, putting the team on his back. So another one that, you watch it happen live. We were both in the building, and you're just kind of like, I don't understand how he does it, how he did it again. But, between McDavid and Skinner, if the Oilers didn't have those two, it would have been an ugly night.
Talk to me about Kyle Turris, because I loved your tweet after the game. Kyle Turris Revenge Tour 2.0, another shootout winner for the guy. That's got to be some pressure, but he keeps delivering so far.
Career-wise, he's always been good in the shootout. Even back to his days in Arizona when Dave Tippett was his head coach, he was really, really good in the shootout. So, for the Oilers, you go McDavid, you go Draisaitl, and after that, Nugent Hopkins has been okay in his career as a shootout guy. But you don't have a lot of really proven options. So I like that they go with Kyle Turris again, and it pays off. He does pretty much nothing for this team at 5-on-5, but he's been a big part of 2 wins already this year because he's come through in the shootout. So it's great to see.
A lot of comments in the Twitter chat about the Frank merch. Guys, and Frank we trust. You can get this at nationgear.com. I get that right?
Can you get them in Nation Gear? Bag Milk knows how to get them.
Go to Bag Milk. Don't listen to me at all is what I'm saying. Go to Bag Milk socials and you can figure out where to get them. Obviously, net proceeds go to the Edmonton Humane Society. And I believe that Frank picked the Oilers to win tonight against the Blackhawks. Quickly, before we go into, into the opposition report, let's quickly talk about Darnell Nurse, Slater Cuckoo out in injury.
Yeah.
The defense wasn't looking too great before this news, before these injuries. What does this say about our defense now and maybe the guys who are coming in to replace them?
Yeah, Darnell Nurse maybe not having the best season so far, but at the end of the day, he was consistently eating up 25-plus minutes a game. He plays a little bit on the power play. He kills a ton of penalties for them. And, with him gone, you look at that left side, Keith, Chris Russell, Cuckoo's out now too, but Keith, Chris Russell, and it's going to be one of Broberg or Lagus every game. And you all of a sudden kind of look at the pairings, and you're not really sure, who's trustworthy out of these pairings. And we'll get to the lines in a second, but I can't emphasize how big this Darnell Nurse loss is. They're going to need guys like Keith and Cece to step up and all of a sudden start playing 25 minutes a game like Darnell Nurse did, and you're going to need Barry to start carrying a pairing on his own because he's likely going to be playing with Filip Broberg. And I mean, even Evan Bouchard, there's pressure on him. Like, there's pressure on everyone on this blue line. Like, it's not like there's just one guy who can step up and fill the void of Darnell Nurse. They're going to need all 6 defensemen dressed on any given night to play a role that's more elevated than what they're used to.
Absolutely. Let's move into the opposition report presented by Jägberger. Obviously, we all know that the Oilers are on home ice tonight taking on the Chicago Blackhawks, who are 5-9-2 on the season so far. Obviously, this Blackhawks team has struggled, but they are coming off of 4 straight wins right now in the season. So they've got momentum on their side. And also, exciting night for Edmonton Oilers fans. Jujhar Khaira is back in the house, and Caleb Jones.
Yes, for the Hawks, 4-0, you mentioned that. 4-0 since their coaching change as well. They let go of Jeremy Colleton. They were bleeding chances every single game, and now they've tightened up defensively. Just 6 goals against in those 4 games as well. So they've been rolling since they brought in Derek King as their new head coach. That's really helped Marc-Andre Fleury as well, although we won't get to see him tonight. It'll be Lankinen going for the Blackhawks. But this is a Chicago team that's found a way to tighten up defensively, and you look at the team on paper, I mean, it didn't really make sense that they got off to as bad of a start as they did. But since that coaching change, it seemed to spark them. So this is not going to be an easy 2 points for Edmonton at all tonight.
Lineups presented by Deuce Vodka for the Chicago Blackhawks.
The local product, Kirby Doc, will center the top line for the Hawks with Patrick Kane and Alex DeBrincat on his wings. DeBrincat 3 goals in his last 5 games. Jonathan Toews with Dominic Kubalik and Brandon Hagel. Another local product from Mourneville. Dylan Strome with Henrik Borgstrom and Philip Kurashev. Jujhar Khaira, like you mentioned, centering the 4th line with Ryan Carpenter and Mike Hardman. The D pairings, they are going with the Jones Bros as their top pairing. Caleb and Seth playing together. Jake McCabe with Connor Murphy, then Riley Stillman with the former Oilers draft pick Eric Gustafsson. And between the pipes, it is going to be Kevin Lankinen. Lankinen struggled a little bit this year. He's had a couple of rough outings in his last 5, and on the season, he is a 3.1 goals against average. So a Hawks team that, I mean, with Fleury in net, they've been great. Lankinen gives me a little bit more hope that the Oilers offense can get going, because that Oilers offense only 1 5-on-5 goal in their last 2 games.
Yeah, they need to get that going, absolutely. And lines presented for the Edmonton Oilers, because there are some changes in there that we were just speaking to defense-wise. Yeah,
defense-wise, we'll see some changes. Get to that in just a second. The forwards, we're projecting a little bit here because the Oilers didn't have a full skate today, but McDavid with Hyman and Puljujarvi, Draisaitl with Yamamoto and Nugent-Hopkins. That trio for the Oilers in that last game was really the only forward group that was going consistently. They outshot the Jets 9-6 at 5-on-5. McLeod, Cassian, and Fogle. The Oilers are going to need a big bounce back from that trio. They were outshot 7-2 when they were on the ice together against Winnipeg. The 4th line, Sevier with Benson and Turris. Turris with the shootout winner. Tyler Benson took a couple of penalties in quick order last game. And I mean, they were pretty soft calls as well. But I mean, if Benson wants to stay in the lineup on a consistent basis, he probably needs to start making a more consistent impact at 5-on-5. So the bottom 6 for the Oilers facing a little bit of pressure here tonight. The D pairings, they're going to keep Keith and Cece together as the top pair. Broberg will make his NHL debut with Tyson Barrie on a pairing, and then Bouchard will get a chance to play with Chris Russell. And it is Stuart Skinner going between the pipes for the Oilers, so that's how Edmonton is expected to line up for this one.
I would also like to point out before I do my Zodiac report here in a moment that it is Scorpio season, so I'm not even surprised that Stuart Skinner, who is a Scorpio, and Leon Draisaitl, who is also a Scorpio, are having such hot seasons and like a hot spurt right now because they're feeling the energy.
Yeah, and before we keep moving on as well, I want to talk a little bit about Filip Broberg. Spiced Oil in the chat saying Broberg is the answer. A question in the Facebook chat as well asking about, what kind of role can Filip Broberg be playing here. This is a guy who comes in, he's not like he's coming fresh out of junior, right?
Yep.
He's now, as you can see on the screen, 89 career games in the Swedish Elite League. It's been a couple of years since he was drafted, and he's been doing really well at the American League level as well, with 10 points in 13 games for the Bakersfield Condors. So this is a guy who's coming in, and he's used to playing against men, right? Like the Swedish Elite League, he's been there since his draft year. He's used to playing against really tough competition. He's not exactly the offensive defenseman that maybe Evan Bouchard is, but I think with Broberg, we're going to get some really solid minutes in the defensive zone. And as much as it sucks that you lose Darnell Nurse, I think this has a chance in a weird way to maybe roll into a positive in the long term for the Oilers. This forces Broberg into the lineup. It gives him a chance to not just come up and be the seventh defenseman or come up and play third pairing minutes. He's going to be thrust into a really important role. And as a guy who's a top 10 pick, I mean, the optimistic side of me wants to go, hey, maybe he can handle this role here for the Oilers, and maybe we'll look back on this in 2 months and go, man, Broberg's a regular part of this lineup, and he only got that look because of the Darnell Nurse injury.
So you have a lot of faith in him.
I think I do have a lot of faith. Like, we've seen Evan Bouchard come in this year, and I mean, he was drafted a year before Broberg, but Bouchard's come in this year, and he's looked like a legitimate top 4 NHL defenseman. And even going back to last year, I was impressed with Bouchard. So I think there's a chance Broberg comes in and kind of surprises us tonight.
Awesome. And tell us where you're putting your money tonight, Tyler.
Yeah, let's dig into the betting report, courtesy of our friends over at PointsBet. The Oilers, big-time favorites on the money line at -221. If you like them to win in regulation, which I think I do, it's paying out -140. They're also +110 on the puck line. The Oilers team total is set at an even 4 on PointsBet, but it's paying +120. So if you think the Oilers are going to roll over the Hawks, the best way to wager on that is probably to take their team total over 4 goals. My bet of the game centered around Zach Hyman. For the first time this season, Hyman's been held without a point in back-to-back games. If you like Hyman to get a point, which I do, -165 is the payout there. It's not a great payout, but I'm taking Hyman to get a point. I don't think he goes 3 straight games without getting on the board.
He's due for one, hey? That's a great point.
He's also +175 to score, so if you want to get a little bit riskier, have some risky business, shout out to Bag Milk, take Hyman +175 to score a goal. Like you said, I think he's due tonight. He's got 7 shots in the last 2 games. One of them's going to go in eventually.
Do it, people. In Tyler, we trust. And quickly, the Zodiac report today is some big earth energy in Colton Sevier, who's a Taurus. They're known to be focused, stable, determined, and patient. So who knows, with all these qualities, maybe Colton Sevier gets his first goal or first assist on the season tonight against the Blackhawks and help this Oilers team get another win at Rogers Place tonight. So Colton Sevier, ladies and gentlemen, a Taurus. Go ahead, Tyler. What do you want to say?
I was just going to jump to the Facebook chat. Taylor Sim, RIP Leftorium. I mean, that's a throwback joke right there. Will says he's more worried about Barry in that pairing with Broberg. And I actually think the two of them have the potential to work pretty well together. Like, again, I mentioned it, Broberg's strong suit is not necessarily moving the puck. It's not like a deficiency in his game, but I think putting him with a guy like Barry who can make that good first outlet pass and who has a lot of NHL experience as well, I think that duo actually could work a little bit better than some people would think.
Balance each other out.
Yeah, I think so. You're getting a ton of compliments on your hoodie in the Twitch tab. Bearded Brad loves it. Says cheers, everybody. Electronic Jordan -221. Nice. I mean, it's a Saturday night, home ice. The Oilers have been a great home team this year, 7-1-1. Hawks haven't been great on the road. I think I actually kind of like the Oilers to roll over the Hawks in this one. I wasn't too confident going into that game against Winnipeg, but tonight I think this Oilers team is kind of due for a big win, and they're missing Darnell Nurse, and that sucks. But sometimes an injury like that, like we even saw it a couple of years ago when Connor McDavid went down for that 4-game stretch, the Oilers went into a home game against the Blackhawks and rolled them over. Sometimes that injury just kind of gets everyone on high alert a little bit. And like I said, all 6 defensemen need to be on their A games. Broberg should be fired up for his NHL debut. I think the Oilers will have a really good game tonight. I'm weirdly confident in that.
I am too. I for some reason, I'm not even like weirdly confident. I'm just confident. I think it's going to be, I'm going to predict a 4-1 game. And another big game from Stuart Skinner between the pipes. I think he's feeling the heat. He's loving it, and he's going to roll with that energy right now.
Yeah, they're gonna need both Skinner and Koskinen to keep being big. The reports, I think it was Tom Gazzola who had it. I mean, Mike Smith's not even skating right now, so we're likely going to be rolling with this Skinner and Koskinen duo for a while, and hopefully Stuart Skinner can keep up this strong play because. I mean, it's a bigger conversation. We talked about it yesterday on Oilers Nation Radio, but if Skinner keeps rolling and Smith returns, the Oilers are going to have a hell of a decision to make with those 3 goaltenders and who would go back down to the minors at that point. Just quickly into the Twitch chat here. I lost where I was. But never mind. Trevor Berg says it should be a fun game, so that's where I'll wrap up on the comments from the crowd.
And everyone, make sure if you're getting to the game today, you drive safely. No matter where you're going, actually drive safely and enjoy the game. We'll be on Twitter chatting it up as we always do. So look out for us, and we'll be back for the next game. Sorry, guys, my voice is slowly going to crap because of Canada soccer and the Edmonton Oilers. So we'll be back here next game day, and this has been your Giant pregame show presented by Sherwood Ford. Tyler, Caroline, and Frank, we trust. Enjoy the game.